Hey there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to go through and show you how I made this sheath for this knife right here. It's not in focus, but this knife right here, this is a Sanmai Hunter Skinner type knife that I made a few weeks ago, and I wanted to make a sheath for it that basically something a little different. I had seen this style of sheath a while back when visiting a knife store in Boone, North Carolina. And didn't know what it was, but I know I wanted to recreate one. It appeared to me to be Kydex lined leather, Kydex lined leather, basically. Leather with a Kydex core. So I did a little bit of research, and then after making the sheath, I found out it was pretty rare, but it was actually based on Winkler knives. The knife is actually, believe it or not, kind of like that knife as well. It's not exact by any means, not a copy, but it does have that same style to it. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to go through the experimental process of me making this sheath. Like I said, it's got suede on the inside. It is two parts, so when you take these screws out, it does come apart, and you can clean the inside, replace the suede, whatever you needed to do. But it is experimental. The suede is stuck on a barge, and the leather on the outside is stuck on a barge too. There's probably a lot better ways to do this. I don't know if there's a quicker way to do it. I'm sure there is. I used everything from a hobby store, so I don't know if there's. I know there's better adhesives and better leathers out there, but most everything I got was from Hobby Lobby. There is a website that you can buy suede that's got a pre-adhesive back on it, and it's made for ballet shoes. I know some people in the Kydex world have used that to go through and put Kydex suede leather liners on the outside of their Kydex holsters for guns, because suede on the inside of a Kydex holster is not really safe, so it's not something that's recommended. But they have used it on the outside, and it's pre-adhesive. You can actually put it on flat and press it. I didn't go that route. I don't know if that's something that I'll try in the future. It may be. If you have tried something like this, comment on the video, let me know. I may do an update video later, an update video in the future, and I'll credit whoever gives me any kind of ideas towards it. And I'll credit anybody that gives me any kind of ideas towards it. Basically, what I want to do though is go through my process of this one. I know on the actual Winkler sheaths there is a stitch around the edge. I did not do a stitch just because I didn't want to sit there and hand stitch this, and honestly it feels like it's solid, so I didn't think it was necessary. Two, I think this is a lot more rough around the edges. This is done, like I said, with the minimal tools that I have, but it is solid. It does have a good retention as far as that goes. Now there are a few things that I would do different that I'll notate later in the video, but overall it came out good to be an experimental sheath. It's done, and it's actually available with this knife on my Etsy page. I'll put the links down in the description, that way you'll have those if you're interested. I think that's it as far as that goes. Like I said, if there is a better way to do it, let me know. I'd be glad to take on any information to make this process quicker, because this was a drawn out process compared to a Kydex sheath that I'm used to making, or even just a leather sheath alone that I'm used to making. Please take a second to subscribe to my channel. Like this video, that helps the algorithms see it and make it viewable. So without further ado, let's go through the process of me making this sheath.
Alright, the first thing is to make sure you have a layer of masking tape on whatever is going to be pressed. This creates space between the knife and the sheath and allows a better fit with a lot less wear. Quick side note, because I'm lining the inside of this sheath with suede, I added 4 to 6 layers. If I do another sheath like this, 1 to 2 layers would be fine. In my experience, the ideal temperature to press Kydex is 340 to 360 degrees. This gives the best definition without burning it. Also, I've had better luck pressing both halves at the same time versus one than the other. This seems to give a flatter rim, but seeing how I didn't have room for two, I had to do one at a time, and I still think it came out nice. After about 15 minutes in the press, it's time to pull it out and start designing the profile of the sheath. Now it's out to the shop to get the holes drilled and get the profile cut out. Quick tip, a countersink makes quick work of cleaning up holes after you've drilled into Kydex. I cut most of the excess away with the bandsaw, then I cleaned it up further. Once the top is close in profile, I'll use 1/4-inch machine screws and nuts to hold both halves together and finish the profile out with them attached. It's also worth mentioning that I used a taped up knife in between the two pieces of Kydex in order to transfer the holes from the top to the bottom piece. I cut most of the excess away with the bandsaw, then I'll clean it up further on the grinder. With most of the profile complete, I used a rotary tool to refine it and set the sanding lines in the same direction. This will make final finishing easier later on. Now I'm ready to start gluing the leather onto the inside. Once I rough up the inside of the Kydex with 220, I'll thoroughly clean everything with Dawn and let it completely dry. The inside of the sheath is going to be suede, so once I have my pieces cut, I use disposable glue brushes to spread a thin layer on the two pieces that make contact. I used barge contact cement from the hobby store. Make sure you use this stuff in a well-ventilated area and use proper PPE. Now while that sits up for about 10 to 15 minutes, I yet again wrap the blade in a fresh layer of masking tape. This is just to keep from getting any contact cement on the blade. Now that the contact cement's had time to set up, it's time to start pressing the suede onto the Kydex. Make sure to press all over and to get in all the definition. After each side's done, I'll put it back in the press with the knife for a few hours to cure. Once that's done, I'll do a little bit of trimming to keep the profile tidy. I'll also use a 1/4 inch leather punch to transfer the holes from the Kydex to the Suede. Then it's just basically repeating the process with the 40 ounce Vegetan leather that's going to go on the outside. It's now time to install the 1/4 inch rivets. Since this sheath will be able to come apart, I'll put 4 in each side so that it can be screwed together later. This is pretty nice as far as maintenance and cleaning goes. A sanding drum on my rotary tool is probably the fastest, but definitely not the cleanest way to finish out the profile. Once I get the flat edges of the profile where I want them, I start rounding over the edges and start sanding up through different grits. I didn't film the first part of coating the leather with dye, but after sanding, I went back and added the final coat and got around on the edges. I've never used resin before, but the instructions say to dampen the leather with water first. It seemed to leave a white, milky, bubbly kind of mess on top of the leather, so I used a rag to wipe the excess. I figured I'd need to do an additional coat, but it seemed to look okay. Now onto the mounting plate. This is just 2 pieces of .08 Kydex glued together with contact cement. I traced the sides of the sheath and then connected the sides and then just took it out to the shop and cut it out. I added 1/4-inch rivets for a little extra strength, but also just think it looks a little bit better. Once all that was done, it was time to put everything together. I used 8 32nd screws and posts, along with some rubber bushings for hardware. Overall, this was a huge experiment, and I don't claim that I did everything right, but everything was done to the best of my experience. So overall, I'm really happy with the outcome. Please take a second to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next one.